Hello, welcome to We're the Greers, and today looks a little different. Benjamin and I shared that we're sort of going to use our YouTube channel as a way to minister, a way to encourage, a way to share our story, and we felt like maybe the best way is to on Mondays I sort of share my journey, my experience. I'm by no means an expert, but with through motherhood, homeschooling, just daily devotions that are speaking to me, routines and procedures around our household. And then Benjamin would have his own day where he would sort of share his heart for men's ministry, especially fatherhood and what it looks like to be a Christian, godly man. And by no means is he perfect or an expert, but God has really grown us and shown us a lot, and we just sort of want to share it and encourage. And so, as I was trying to figure out and praying and asking God, what is it that this first Monday where I'm by myself, what should I talk about? I felt like the easiest place to start was or is my journey to faith and how I my story of deciding to rely on Jesus instead of myself. And so if you're not a Christian, I totally want to say I get it, because I was 31 when this happened, and all throughout my 20s I remember looking around at people who were Christians and thinking, I don't get it. And so if you're sitting here and you're like rolling your eyes, I just want to say, like, I've been you and I get it. And so no judgment here from me, but I do want to share sort of my story. And so it all begins, my faith journey, I guess. In kindergarten and in first grade, I actually went to a private Christian school. And we went to the church. It was a church school combo. We went to the church there because I went to school there. And I was at a vacation Bible school, and they asked if we had said the prayer that makes Jesus our friend and invites Jesus into our heart. And I hadn't said this prayer, but Jesus being my friend sounded like a good thing. And so I said a prayer and I was baptized. And then after first grade, I transitioned into public school, and our family stopped going to church. I would go every once in a while with a friend or a family member, but church was just not a part of our life. And then in middle school, I was in 6th or 7th grade. Our family decided my parents decided we need to be in church. And I was a little resentful of this because I was in middle school. I sort of enjoyed my Sundays of sleeping in. And I didn't really like the idea of being the new kid at church. That's a whole different story. I had issues with just sort of being a fear of rejection. And so I wasn't excited about being the new kid on the block at church. But we started going. There were a couple of friends or people there that I was sort of friends with at school, or had, been acquaintances with each other in classes and stuff. And so some friendships were made. I started to really enjoy church. And it was a Southern Baptist church. And we had revival. And the revival was all about hell and brimstone. You're going to go to hell if you don't say this prayer or if you don't give your life to Jesus. And I was absolutely terrified of going to hell. And so I said a prayer. I can remember, like, just the prayer had to be perfect. Like, I went to this little room with this sweet church lady, and she said, just repeat after me. And I just remember being like so focused on I have to repeat exactly what she said, because in my mind this was the ticket to get out of hell. And so I said the prayer. I felt so good because I'm not going to go to hell now. And got baptized again. And things were good for a while because guess what? I was a good kid. I was a rule follower. And so in my mind, there were certain things that the church or the people, the youth group and everything told me, like, you don't do. If you love Jesus, if you're a Christian, you're not going to have premarital sex. You don't want to drink. You don't, there's just like this list of rules. And it was really easy to follow those rules until I got to college. And so when I went to college, being on my own, and honestly, I didn't truly have a relationship with Jesus. I said a prayer to get out of hell, but I didn't say a prayer to Jesus. I didn't say a yes to Jesus. I was just sort of saying whatever I could to get myself out of hell. And that's not what that prayer's about. And so because I didn't really have a relationship with Jesus, everything began to fall apart. And when I went to college, in college, I had professors who were not Christians, obviously, and they were sort of adamant that there's not a God. And so I was influenced by them. And so throughout our 20s, Benjamin and I, we didn't go to church. Jesus was just nowhere a part of our lives. And I sort of felt like something was missing. And so I filled that with drinking wine every day when I came home. It was 1 o'clock when I got home from work. I filled it with online shopping, hoping that these purchases were going to fill that empty spot. But ultimately, I wouldn't say I was unhappy, but there just felt like something was missing. I didn't have the joy and peace that some other people in my life did. And so at age 31, we actually had Presley and we had Jackson. Jackson was just a few months old. We decided we're going to start going to church for the kids' sake. And so we visited a couple of churches, and we found a church that we really loved. That's, if you're in South Carolina, you may have heard of it. It's called New Spring. And so we started to visit there, and it became really quickly evident that God wasn't taking us or bringing us to church for the kids, that he was wanting to really speak into Benjamin in my life. And so each week I just was left feeling encouraged but confused. And so I decided I need to start taking next steps. But I wanted to. And I started reading my Bible. So I can remember being in my living room. I was doing a daily devotion. I was by myself, I think, or either kids were taking naps. But I just remember reading the devotion and just thinking, God, I'm just so tired of trying to do life my way. I really just want to follow you. And I want my life to be about you and not about myself anymore. And at the time, I sort of thought, because if you are familiar with Southern Baptists, you sort of feel like maybe I had backslidden. I really ultimately think that that was when I really and truly gave my life to Jesus, because that prayer I spoke was just from the heart, and it was really a decision about, it's not about hell. It's not about, not really understanding the whole picture as a 5-year-old. Which I know plenty of people who that is their salvation story, so I'm not discounting that. But for me, it was when I actually made that decision myself that, hey, I want to follow Jesus. Like, I'm missing something, and I think this is what it is. And so from there, it became just next step after next step after next step. And the one thing I would say that just made a huge difference is I started to read the Bible myself. Like, I started reading in Genesis, and I read all the way through, and it's so crazy how different the Bible is when you read it yourself compared to just maybe hearing a Bible verse here or there, or on your social media account, and you sort of roll your eyes. It all just sort of started to really make sense, and I was learning all that on my own instead of someone, I think, sort of telling me what they thought. Not that preaching isn't good, but for the first time, I just had a desire to really know Jesus myself, and not just through a church sermon. And so my relationship with him just grew and grew, and all of a sudden, I had that peace and joy that the other people that had been in my life that were Christians, that they experienced. And it has influenced everything from the way that we raise our children to how many children we have to homeschooling. And so as I began to sort of share our journey with y'all, I felt like it was really important to share this story of sort of the foundation where all of it came from. And just to let you know that, Christianity isn't what we see the world proclaiming Christianity. If you read the Bible, you'll just see it's really all about, it's love. Jesus constantly tells us in the New Testament to love people. And I feel like that vibe doesn't come across in a lot of Christians today. And so I hope that by sharing my story, if you're not a Christian, you can understand that a lot of the Christianity that you see isn't really true Christianity. I'm always so blown away when people talk about Jesus, and it's just clear that their picture of Jesus is just through the people that claim to be Christians. But when you read the New Testament, he was a man of love, and the people that he challenged were the people that were religious and just doing things because that's what religion told us to do. Those were the people he got angry with. Those were the people that he disagreed with. And he just sort of said, like, look, we're here to love each other. First to love God, and then love each other. And I don't know. It's just a whole different world than what maybe the world tells us. So anyway, I'm always happy to answer questions. But as we're about to go through and as I want to share more of our story, if you ever have any questions or topics you'd love for me to talk about, feel free to write them down in the comments. Or send me an email at hello@thefrontporch.com, or you can send me a message on my Instagram account and just sort of say, hey, this is a topic I'd love for you to talk about on your YouTube channel. So I hope y'all have a great week, and I will see you again next Monday.